root of this 9-point meditation on death is the inevitability of death. So we have lots on our schedule, lots of projects, things to do. But death is the only event that is certain. It's what we all have in common. So then the first point under this topic is that everyone has to die. Think of the most powerful persons on the planet. They have had to die. The wealthiest people who can call in all kinds of experts, afford all kinds of medication, be very well protected, but they also have to die. And think of all the billions of people on the planet right now. In 100 years, all of these people, or the vast majority of them, will be gone, as will we. The second point is that your lifespan is decreasing continuously. So you're on a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt never seems to slow down or stop. There's no way to really get off. And it's moving steadily in one direction. Check your thoughts, your feelings that are arising as you contemplate this. The third point is that the amount of time left for spiritual practice is small. What do we do to prepare for death? What help is there in this culture for it? How many hours are you awake in a day? And how many minutes are spent with something that will help your spiritual practice or your preparation for the inevitable? These meditations are meant to help you develop a determination to use your life wisely in a way that you will feel good about. Remember, all of these meditations are meant to empower us. Now, the second root of this meditation is the uncertainty of the time of death. So by contemplating the first 3 points, we come to accept that we're definitely going to die. But we often think it's not yet. There's no tornado. We've got plenty of time. Is there any way that we really know for sure when that time is? So the first point to contemplate is that the human life expectancy is uncertain. If we knew that human beings die at 88 years old, then we would know the time that we have and perhaps use it differently. But obviously it can end at any point. Think of examples of people you know who have heard about who died before they reached the age you are now. It's difficult to feel convinced that death could happen at any moment, generally for most of us. But generating a strong feeling of the complete uncertainty of your own time of death can be used positively in the ways that we meditated on earlier. So the next point is to think that, to meditate on the fact that there are many causes of death. There are few causes of life, but there are many causes of death. There are natural disasters. There are lots of accidents. There are people killing people. There are dangerous animals, insects, but also our own body. A tiny little droplet can set off the conditions for our death. Even things we think of that support life, like food, contaminated piece of food, could be also the thing that sets our death in motion. Our house that we might have saved and owe a lot of money on and are very happy living in could catch fire and collapse and kill us. So understanding that there are many, many causes of death is not meant to frighten us or immobilize us, but to remind us that death is inevitable. The third point under this root is that the human body is very fragile. Think how soft and vulnerable our body is compared to like a bear. If a bear was fighting another bear, it would, have a lot of protection, but one swipe at us and it would kill us. So it's quite a miracle that we are alive and have the opportunity to meditate and practice the path that we want to, that we choose to. And the final root is the fact that only spiritual practice can help us at the time of death. When we are leaving this life, what is it that will help our state of mind? We should aim to have a good death, to be at peace with ourselves, feeling good about how we lived our life. That as little unresolved conflicts are left behind us. So what will benefit us at the time of death is a positive mind state, calmness, loving kindness, compassion for ourselves, for others, patience. So the first point under this root is your loved ones cannot help, no matter how much they would like to. And actually trying to hold on to them can be an obstacle in your having a peaceful state of mind. This is often why people who are dying die when everyone leaves the room. So while people can often help us in the early stages, keep us calm, remind us how to have a peaceful mind, eventually we go alone, we die alone. So then meditate that your possessions cannot help you, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter if you have a very private, wonderful room in a hospital, no matter what, the possessions, the things that you enjoy now cannot help you in that moment. They can certainly help in the process, make you more comfortable, give you more ability to stay calm, but they can't stop what's happening. And then finally, your own body cannot help. It's been your constant companion since birth. You know it more intimately than anyone or anything else. You've cared for it, protected it, worried about it, spent a lot of money on it. But 2 minutes after you die, no one's going to want to touch it. And now, as you're in the dying process, it becomes weak and quite useless. Your mind will separate from it and it will be removed. Your body will be removed. So, what good can it do you now? So, understanding your dependence on it now. It's been a wonderful vehicle. I think Geshe-la talks about how our bodies or our lives are like a hotel room, that we're not overly attached to a hotel room. We enjoy it. It's wonderful. And then when we leave, we leave. If we can have that, if we can reduce our attachment to this body in that way, and build confidence in what comes when we do leave it, we'll have a much more peaceful death. If we take care of our mind, take care of our lives, then we can die with a positive mind state. To try to check in with how you're feeling. Again, remembering that the purpose of the meditation is not to generate fear, except for fear of having a negative mind state in your life, at your death. And that we have this opportunity to become familiar with the mind states that we want to carry with us as often as we, throughout our entire life. And to use death as our advisor, that which wakes us up, that which gives us enormous energy to use our life wisely. Okay, and then slowly open your eyes. Any thoughts or questions or concerns or
Hi, Steve. You've alluded to that we're going to go very deep into the process. Can you tell us where this process was derived from? The Buddhists always talk about going back to the root. Is this spiritual teaching? Is this where are we getting this information from?
the death dissolution?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna come back with the exact, because I know that one of the ones that Geshe-la taught me, I don't think I brought that information with me, so I want to get the exact names for you. There's also a book in the bookstore that His Holiness wrote, and it's based on like a poem, I think, to the Panchen Lama, and it also goes through the death dissolution states. So that's what you're talking about in particular, right?
Yeah, or basically the whole death process as believed by Buddhism.
Okay, yeah, let me get that for you. Yeah.
Kind of following up with that, did the Buddha actually experience death? And that's how we know about this process?
I mean, yes, he did. I don't know that, I really don't want to answer something that's going to be wrong. But these teachings about like the death dissolution state, it definitely has like, it's come from this is the person who gave this to this person, and on down. That I can definitely get for you. And I'll ask Geshe-la those questions. Yeah. So, I mean, there's this whole death dissolution thing we're going to go through. And I know, I mean, I feel like Geshe-la's going to tell me, yes, there's been meditators who've gone through this and been able, because some of the high practitioners, they're able to get into these deep meditative states and able to, like, when we fall asleep at night, we go through some of these very same stages. I don't remember that, I'm lucky I remember my dreams. But if you've meditated and you're at a certain level, you would have much more awareness of that. So there's people who can do that more in their dreams, and then people who, I think, through their meditative practice, this is not current day, I'm not talking about now, but teachers who have done this and then passed on these teachings. But I'll find out. Yeah.
I can comment out of my personal experience because I had to take care of my grandmother during her last week alive. Mm-hmm. And I think that many of the concepts that you described were things that I saw firsthand, how her mind or consciousness was becoming something else that was less like what she was, or like what I understood she was.
Yeah.
And I could see those changes firsthand. And I was there basically during 3 months. And I was her primary caregiver during the last week. Mm. And I think that if somebody will have been exposed to a person dying repeatedly, all these patterns will have become evident. And at some point, somebody will have like written a book or passed down these traditions down many generations.
Yeah.
So to me, at least in my personal experience, I've seen those patterns, at least in the case of my grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking care of your grandmother. Yeah, I saw both, because I knew these stages. There were certain points with both of my parents. I saw, now they're in this stage, and then I could, I think the individual experience is going to be a little different. So in terms of what some of the signs are. So let me just read through. I know we're kind of running out of time. So we're not going to do I'm just going to talk you through some of the some of what happens in the body, and then we'll definitely do it next time. So like for example, there are these 8 stages, and in these different aggregates are dissolving. And the first, in the beginning, it's the earth element and the aggregate of form. And so the earth element is the quality of solidity in our body. As it dissolves, your body loses strength, becomes thinner and weaker. You feel drained of energy. You might feel as if you are falling or sinking on the earth. It becomes difficult to sit upright or to hold anything. Your natural glow fades. Your cheeks become sunken. Your eyes become unclear. Your eyesight becomes unclear. It's difficult to open and close your eyes. And the outer sign of the first stage of the death process, that's the outer sign. The inner sign is that it looks like a mirage. So that's where it's like, if you're not familiar with this, you might actually think that you're in like some kind of flood, or there's whatever arises for you. But if you understand this, then you're like, oh, that's what's happening. So when I do this meditation, at that point, I'll say, mirage appears, and then I'm already thinking about what the next final inner sign is. And so when I saw like at this stage, and you may have seen this with your grandmother, a lot of times a hospice calls it like restless arms and legs. The person is like trying to get up, and that's when they drugged her. I don't know what that experience then is like, but people are trying to get up and get out of bed, and they say, and here they don't describe it this way, but Geshe-la says the person sometimes feels like they're trapped underneath something. And so the meditation I do is you feel like your arms and legs are falling. So you've had that dream when you're just about to fall asleep that you're falling. Have you ever had? And you wake yourself up. You're not really into a deep state of sleep yet. You're going through these stages. And so I saw that with my dog. I remember when my dog was dying in Geshe-la, because he lived in my house. We had her set in the backyard, and she just kept trying to get up, and then that turned into the next one. And finally, when she got to a certain stage, he told me, okay, now you should leave, because he was afraid I was going to get upset. So he knew, like, we're very close now, because we were also trying to keep her mouth wet, and she wasn't responding at all. And so, yeah, when my mom was trying to get up, it was also like her eyes weren't blinking at all. They were just, and I was worried, like, that must be painful, but it wasn't painful. So then the water element absorbs, and the final inner sign is going to be a vision of smoke. So when I'm doing this meditation, I'm like, okay, mirage is here and smoke is coming. And then the water element consists of the fluids of the body, as well as the quality of things sticking together. So as this element absorbs, you start to feel dry in the eyes, the mouth, the nose, the throat. It becomes difficult to move your tongue. Feelings of, well, they say pleasure and displeasure, but what I've heard too is like you can no longer have sensations of pain, pleasure, or discomfort. There's no pain or pleasure. You also then can't even remember, because there's certain qualities of the mind that are dissolving. So I'm always like, well, that's good to know that when the person reaches that state, they're not in pain. They don't have pain. They can't even remember what that is like. Yeah, they say it a little differently here. What I've read is that you can no longer hear inner or outer sounds. And I remember asking Geshe-la, what's inner sounds? He said, there's a constant hum. And when you close your ears, you hear it. He goes, that's gone. So you can't hear externally, you can't hear internally. And the inner vision then is smoke. So it might be fog or smoke or something like that. Again, that can be confusing if you don't know what's going on. So then I say to myself, okay, smoke, mirage is gone, smoke is here, and fireflies are coming. So then the next element is fire, and that absorbs. And the fire element is the heat in our body. So at this stage, our mouth and nose dry up completely. The warmth of our body begins to disappear, usually from the feet up. You can no longer eat, drink, or digest anything. Your mind can become confused. You can no longer remember the names. This is one of the things sometimes people during the meditation would be alarmed at this. Like you're no longer remembering the names of the people in your life. Then you're no longer remembering the relationships of the people in your life. But it's not like, I mean, you're in such a different state. So that while that's upsetting to us now, it doesn't mean that you're not ever going to be around those people again. Because if you've been studying karma, there's something that brought you together. So now it's the aggregates are separating. There's going to be other times that you're together, just in different forms. So when we're meditating on that, it's just a letting go of that. And at that point, you just do. You're not holding on. Your sense of smell weakens. Your breathing becomes difficult. It's usually, if you've watched people die, a long exhale and a short inhale. Long exhale, short inhale. It can be like minutes and minutes between those. And in the inner vision is then these like, could be fireflies or like sparklers, something like that. So then I say to myself, smoke is gone, fireflies are here, and candlelight is coming, like a flickering flame. So at this stage, you can no longer move your body. You can no longer have certain kinds of thoughts at all. You're unaware of the outside world. So it's kind of like everything's kind of a blur. You can no longer inhale at all. Your tongue is now thick and has no sense of taste. That's kind of like the last sense organ that goes. No longer have any taste. You can no longer feel anything. So you no longer even feel your body. So at first it's like your body can't move. And now you can no longer inhale because of that. And then you can no longer feel. You might have a lot of visions. So remember last time Robert Thurman was talking about, if you're aware, then like say you see a dragon, you just go right through the dragon and there's rose petals, because especially if you start practicing with your dreams, you're aware that this is just dreamlike. There's nothing that can hurt me. And so all these visions may come up, but you've already worked through that. And we can do that in our daily life. I remember one time I lost my wallet. I was like, is this real? Is this really, am I awake here? And if it is a dream, I want to stay calm anyway. So using everything in our life to help us prepare for that, then we won't be as bewildered. So then these visions come up, your breathing has stopped, your last thoughts at all, before they were mundane thoughts, but now it's kind of any kind of thought ceases, and the inner vision is of a flickering light. So then now this is gross consciousness that has ceased. And over the next 4 stages of the death process, the mind becomes more and more subtle. So it's all of these consciousnesses collapsing into one another. And the first then sign is this white sky, or it could be like a clear blue sky, but it's just this vision of a very clear empty sky, like in autumn, full of, like say like a bright full moon. And it's described as, can be very blissful, again, depending on your mind state. And then after that comes a red sky, again, empty, beautiful red, copper red sunset, like that, like a red vision. And then it's like you're fainted. So it's like a kind of a black sky. This doesn't last very long, but you see a dark black sky and then kind of a total loss of consciousness. And then the clear light vision arises. And so the mind now is at its most subtle level, that of the clear light of death, which is, I think, why it's hard for us even to imagine it, because it's at that most subtle consciousness that it's so hard for us to ever even tap into in our regular life. The appearance is that, what they're saying, the appearance is like that of the autumn sky at dawn, completely pure and empty and filled with clear, colorless light. So yeah, clear, colorless light. But I think it's sky-like is the best term, because here, when we look at clear light, there's something always right on the other side of it. But if it feels a sky-like, then it's spacious. And if you keep your mind focused on this experience for as long as you can, without letting the mind be distracted by anything else. If it does become distracted, try to bring it back to the clear light experience, remembering that this is the most pure, subtle level of your mind. And so this is why we do these certain meditations, to meditate on that sensation, on emptiness, because then at this point, it's called joining the childlike mind with the mother mind. So joining your awareness of emptiness and voidness with this experience. So this is the pure nature of mind, right? And you're trying to conjoin that and stay in that state as long as possible. So when the clear light of death ceases, the consciousness passes back through the stages of dissolution, which is what you might have been talking about, in reverse order, the black vision, the red vision, and so forth. And soon the process begins. As soon as the process begins, the person is in the intermediate state, and they have a subtle body which can travel instantly to any place that it thinks of in search for its next birth. So we'll talk more about rebirth later. But is anybody got any questions, or like, I don't want to leave anybody worried or alarmed by what we've been talking about. If something does come up.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Jeremy, you can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe actually speak a little louder.
Sure. How's that?
Oh, that's better. Yes. Thank you.
This got me thinking just about dreams, and I'm aware that in the day, if something disturbs me, sometimes I won't register it, but it'll show up in my dreams as significant. So it made me wonder, with subtle consciousness and what you're describing might appear, does those imprints, those kinds of karmic things, is that what can appear, or is that significant in some way afterwards in terms of what comes up?
Yeah.
Manifesting from that consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the more we recognize that, that's just, it's not real, that's just dreamlike. Like, I don't know if you ever have had that moment in a dream where you're wondering, like, is this a dream or not? Then it loses its power, right? We can completely leave a whole nightmare behind once we realize, oh, this is a dream. And I can move away from that, or I can change it. That's exactly what it's like in the Bardo. And so even before the Bardo, when they're talking about that one moment, like, now there may be different things that appear, and to just not follow them. So this is also why meditation is so helpful, because things appear in our mind that are just gobbledygook, right? And if we don't engage with it, they usually will settle down. It's when we engage with it that now we're kind of stuck to it, and it's, but actually meditating, you can meditate on the nature of mind, and eventually it just kind of feels like this huge ocean, and the thought kind of is, oh, here I see a thought coming up. And when I shine a light, like thought is arising, it kind of settles down, right? So even practicing that, a 5-minute meditation every day, it helps us disengage from the things that are arising. We can also give ourselves a task, like, okay, what is the thing that I most want to settle down? Is it like the annoyance with traffic? Is it the annoyance with this person at work? I mean, maybe don't make it too big. Make it something you can achieve. Then try to watch your mind as it starts to get annoyed or distracted or whatever it is that you're working on, and see if you can just not like oppress it and be mean to it, but actually just give it some space so that it doesn't have anything to work with. It just kind of like, oh, okay, and just dissolves. That's what we want to be able to do in those states as well. But yeah, exactly like a dream. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So I just, I'm my email address, in case something does come up that's really bothering you, is my name, steepsmith buddhism@gmail.com. So you can write me. I really want to just stress what I said in the very beginning, that everything you hear in Buddhism is meant to empower you. So if it's not, then we need to tweak the way that you're looking at it or add in some more stuff so that it's just helping you, move in that direction. But we're all different. So we all have different worries and hear things differently. I don't want anybody to be stressing out about this. So just shoot me an email if you have a question. Personally, I found it all incredibly reassuring that there were things I could do, things I could meditate on, and ways to work with this. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Hang on a second, Lori.
She's asking if I recommend one meditation over the other for this. Yeah, I mean, I really recommend the death dissolution meditation that we're going to do. And is this in some of the reading material that they all have access to? Okay, so, and everybody knows how to access that? The reading material?
Everyone?
So,
If not, just let me know.
yeah, because you can go ahead and read about all of this and start getting familiar with it. I memorized the ones that Geshe-la taught me, so I try to do them regularly. And even as I'm falling asleep, I told him I barely get through all of it. And he goes, that's okay. It's okay. It's setting you in that right direction. So yeah, that, and, just the other ones you can do throughout the day. Like, oh yeah, now why is it good to, meditate on death? How am I supposed to use death as an advisor? We're not trying to use it as like, you're going to die tomorrow, you better do this. It's not like that. So this is why, I love those Carlos Castaneda books. I don't know, anybody here is old enough to have been, yeah. So this was like from the hippie days. Carlos Castaneda found this teacher in Mexico and who was telling him this exact same thing. Use death as your advisor. He goes, pretend death is right in arm's distance. And doesn't mean you don't go to that party, but you're going to act very differently at that party if this is your last party in this form, So anyway, we will start next time with this meditation. I'm going to try to bring in the video as well. And if you don't make the class, but you want to see that video, let me know and I will try to get that to you. All right, so let's take a minute to dedicate all the merit that we have created. So with the understanding that, this is how all of our actions of body, speech, and mind create causes and like little seeds, and we can plant them in the way that we want them to grow. It's when we don't dedicate them or we don't direct them that, they could develop anyway. But we are now deciding how we want this investment to develop. So think about that. Think about how if you achieved your goals, how it would help you and all those others. And then we're going to say Shanti Deva's prayer as a way to just kind of boost our dedication. Right. Thanks.
So this is page 32, or you can see it on the screen. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. for as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your patience, folks online. The storm has passed. We'll see you next week. Oh, Steep, is there homework? Continue the readings, I would imagine. Okay, readings. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Night, Rainey. Good night, Heen.